In 1943, a man named Hermann Kruk dug a hole beneath the city of Vilnius and buried the soul of a civilization inside it. Not metaphorically. Literally. Crates of books, manuscripts, and scrolls lowered into the earth while German soldiers patrolled the streets above him. He knew they would burn everything. So he buried it first. You were never taught this story. And the reason why is almost as devastating as the story itself. Vilnius in 1939 was not just a city. It was called the Jerusalem of Lithuania for a reason. It held one of the most extraordinary collections of Jewish intellectual and cultural life on the planet. The YIVO Institute, founded in 1925, was the world's leading center for Yiddish scholarship. Its library contained over 100,000 volumes, rare manuscripts, irreplaceable correspondence, the written memory of an entire people. Then the Germans arrived. By 1941, the Nazis had already begun what they called a special operation. They wanted to loot the most valuable materials and send them to Frankfurt, where Alfred Rosenberg, the chief ideologist of the Nazi Party, was building a library of plundered Jewish culture. The bitter irony is almost too much to hold. They wanted to study what they were destroying. The Nazis appointed a group of Jewish scholars to sort through the YIVO collection and identify what was worth shipping to Germany. They called this group the Paper Brigade. Hermann Kruk was among them. Kruk was a librarian from Warsaw. He had fled to Vilnius when the Germans invaded Poland in 1939. He was meticulous, disciplined, and deeply devoted to the written word. He also kept a diary throughout the entire occupation, recording everything he witnessed with the precision of a man who understood that someone, someday, would need to know what happened here. The Paper Brigade was given a brutal assignment. Select the treasures. Condemn the rest to be pulped or burned. They sorted through manuscripts that were centuries old. They handled letters written by figures like Sholem Aleichem, the man whose stories would become Fiddler on the Roof. They touched documents that no living person might ever touch again. And then they did something extraordinary. They smuggled. Every day, members of the Paper Brigade would tuck books inside their clothing. Under coats. Inside hollowed-out bundles. Sewn into jacket linings. They smuggled them out past German checkpoints and hid them. In a church, in a monastery, and in the ground itself. They buried crates of manuscripts beneath the floors of buildings across Vilnius. Roughly 30,000 items in total, hidden in locations only they knew. The risk was absolute. If a single guard found one book, the entire operation collapsed. Everyone involved would be executed. Not imprisoned. Executed. They knew this. They did it anyway. Hermann Kruk documented all of it. He recorded the hiding places. He recorded the names of the people involved. He recorded the specific items they saved. He wrote it all down because he understood something that his killers did not. A civilization is not just the people. It is the record of the people. Destroy the record, and you erase the proof that they ever existed. If this surprised you, subscribe right now. Because this channel exists for exactly this kind of history. The stories they condensed into a single paragraph in your textbook, or cut out entirely. We go deeper. Now here is the layer that changes everything. Hermann Kruk did not survive. He was deported to Estonia in 1943 and murdered at a labor camp in 1944, just months before liberation. But before he was taken, he buried his diary too. He buried it in a metal container beneath the ground in Vilnius. He buried the evidence of his own existence along with everything else he had tried to save. It was discovered after the war. His diary, The Last Days of the Jerusalem of Lithuania, was eventually published and stands today as one of the most important eyewitness accounts of the Holocaust ever written. But here is what most people never learn. The recovery of those buried books did not happen quickly. It did not happen cleanly. After the war, Vilnius was absorbed into the Soviet Union. The Lithuanian Soviet government was not interested in celebrating Jewish heritage. The hiding places Kruk and the others had documented were not immediately excavated. Some locations were lost. Some buildings were demolished before anyone could dig. The retrieval happened in pieces, over decades, carried by survivors who refused to let the burial become a permanent grave. YIVO itself had been reconstituted in New York, where it remains today. Portions of the collection that had been shipped to Germany were recovered by Allied forces after the war. Some materials were found in the Frankfurt collection. Some were discovered in a salt mine in Austria. Piece by piece, the buried civilization was reassembled across 2 continents. And then in 2017, archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar discovered a new cache beneath the former Great Synagogue of Vilnius, one of the most magnificent synagogues in all of Europe before the Nazis destroyed it. They found a hidden room. They found artifacts. The excavation is still ongoing. The ground beneath Vilnius is still giving things back. What Hermann Kruk and the Paper Brigade understood is something that every authoritarian regime in history has understood from the opposite side. The most dangerous thing in the world is not a weapon. It is a record. It is proof. It is the undeniable, physical, touchable evidence that a people existed, thought, dreamed, argued, and created. The Nazis burned books because they understood this. Kruk buried them for the same reason. And the fact that we are still finding them, still translating them, still reading them, means that in the end, the librarian won. The next time you are told that history is just names and dates, remember this. Somewhere beneath a city in Lithuania, a man in a German-occupied ghetto chose to risk everything, not for food, not for weapons, but for books. Because he knew the books were the proof. If that hit you the way it hit me when I first found it, subscribe. Leave a comment with the word Kruk so I know you made it to the end. And watch the next video, because the story of what happened to those recovered manuscripts after the war is just as incredible as the burial itself.